welcome back. Welcome back to the Beehive. Yeah, it's a cloudy day. Looks like we're going to get some rain. I can see a little bit of the mountains, but a whole lot of clouds, both white and gray. Are you liking my new do? Yeah, it's, G asked me if it was a new style, and I said, I don't know why. And he said, well, it's because he saw a newscaster on TV that had that hairdo. And I said, really? And then he brought it up, and I was like, oh, I had no idea that I was styling. I think we're just all desperate. I am blessed in that I don't have to worry about dyeing my hair because I don't dye my hair. You can't tell on this camera, but there's just a ton of gray mixed in with all that brown. It's all genetics. My mother was 81 when she passed away, and she was not totally gray. So I still have a few more years before I'm rocking the gray hair, but I am rocking the length. And luckily for me, my hairdresser has shown me how to cut my bangs quite a while ago, because I told her, I said, I'm really desperate. I don't want to go to another hairdresser on the road if I can help it, because, you know, your hairdresser is kind of like your priest. And we want who knows all our secrets. And so she showed me how to cut my bangs. So I do not do as good a job as she does, but I make do. But I cannot cut the length, and it is out of control. But I kind of like my little thing there. Yeah. Well, I'm sure all of you have heard that our quilt show has been postponed until 2021. Even though I intellectually knew that that probably was coming down the pike, when Valerie from the Stitching Post actually announced it, it took the wind out of my sails. I have to say, I cried, and it's so strange because I knew that that probably was going to be the decision. It made the most sense given our current world affairs, but to have it in print and have it out there on social media and have it out loud in the news, it just, wow. I can't even have fathomed that our world had changed. But it's changed for everybody. There's quilt shows all over the nation that have closed. There are businesses that have we may not be able to open back up. Our story in Sisters it's just a page in history, but it's our story, and I feel bad for our little town. We are one of thousands of tourist towns around the nation who are trying to figure out, what do we do now? When G's father lived in Bend and in Sisters, and back in the early 80s, the country wasn't doing so well. And you could drive down 3rd Street, Third Street is the same as Highway 97 as it passes through Bend, Oregon. And there were businesses all boarded up. It was a depressing looking town and a depressing economy in the middle of such vast beauty, because we're in the middle of the forest and the mountains. And I remember G saying he really wanted to move to Bend, and I said, why would I move here? This town looks like it's dying, you know. And I can't help but have a little bit of fear. And I'm okay with it. I don't need everyone to say don't worry or don't. Yeah, we get to worry. We get to cry, and we get to embrace our fears and anxieties because it's real. It's real. And sure, it's happening over across the state in this town or on the beach in this town, but this is my town. And so here I worry. I worry for all these small businesses, all the businesses that were on the cusp of opening up. We had several new businesses opening up in town. But now it's going to be a bizarre summer for us because our rodeo canceled, which brought thousands of people in. Our blues festival canceled, and our quilt show and quilters affair has canceled. So those were kind of our major summer events. And then people going on vacation. When you've lost your job, you don't have vacation money. You need food money. So there's a lot to consider here, but at the same time, I was so proud and I was so uplifted by Valerie Wells, who's carrying the shoulders of the Quilters Affair on her and quilt show on her back. That she made that video on social media, and I'm just in awe. What a fabulous town we have, and the people in it, and the American spirit. We shall rise. Yeah. If we're careful and we take care of each other and we think of our community as opposed to our own needs. I want 2 inches cut off my hair, but I don't need it bad enough to risk my neighbor's life. I'm sorry. So that's just what I have to say about it all. Because I know you wondered what's going on with the hair. Look at how it bounces around. But the good thing is, I hear that we're going to end up with a virtual quilt show, which I have no idea how one does that, but I know Valerie will figure it out. And it'll be fun to see the outcome of it. Yeah, that'll be interesting. Because G and I already said, no quilt show? Well, we're going to drag out all of my quilts and do our own quilt show video. But now I don't have to. I get to see what Sisters is doing and be a part of that. So in the meantime, what am I doing in the Beehive? I am really having fun this week. You saw at the beginning of the video the red work. I just went crazy for red work back around 2010. And so, anything bird brain design, I was like all over it. And I love red work. But then that I pretty much like anything that's handwork, it truly, there's just something about it. And red work is, not only do I like the color red, but red work is just pretty. And when I was cleaning, G and I have been cleaning. And as we stumble across things, I go, oh, I forgot about that. And so I found a red work that I had started and ended up in a bag in the back of a chair. So now I'm bringing it back out, and may not get done this year, but it sure is fun. Unfortunately, it is, I believe, not available as a pattern. And the only reason I got it was because I was at Crabapple Hill at Meg Hockey's place up in Washington. And she built a barn on her property that she runs workshops out of. and I saw a pillow on in one of her little cabinet areas, and I said, I can't find that pattern anywhere. And she said, well, we don't have it on the market anymore. And I said, yeah, but I really want that pattern. And so she said, okay, I'll print you one. Oh yeah, oh yeah. And so I got this pattern. It's mason jars, and I just love it. I don't know, there's something home about it. And so I did it my traditional way, and her traditional way, in that I put SF 101 on the back because I was using Kathy Schmidt's Crackle fabric, which is my absolute favorite embroidery fabric. What can I say? I just thank the Lord that they keep, you know, most of the time. Excuse me for rambling. Today is a rambling day. I should have warned you at the beginning of the video. But having been involved somewhat in the community of the quilting world, I know that quilt fabrics are like, very rarely are they reprinted. Most of the time when a designer does a line, it's like available for that season or year. And then once that's all sold, that's why designers keep designing, because you don't get to really, they don't really reprint much. But Kathy Schmidt's Crackle fabric has been around for a few years now, and it's one of my favorites for embroidery because it just has a little bit of texture to it in the design, but it doesn't take away from the design that you're embroidering on it or piecing with it. I've used it on wool applique and embroidery. And so on this particular piece, I'm using her Crackle fabric, and it comes in several colors, and I don't even know, this one is like has a tan yellowish color to it. And I put my SF 101 on the back because I'm lazy and I want to carry my threads and not have them show through the front. I'm okay with that. I admit it. My backs are never going to be seen, and I'm just going to tell everybody my backs are as pretty as the front. And what do they know? But so I put SF 101 on the back, and then I traced the design exactly like Meg Hockey from Crabapple Hill demonstrates in her videos. And that's using a brown, very, very micro-sized brown Pigma pen. I use my Miso light table, and I trace the design directly onto here. Because when you stitch, you cannot even see where the brown Pigma pen was. You can't see it, you know. And on this particular project, I decided that I really loved the Weeks Dye Works Indian Summer. And so that is what I am using to embroider. So now I'm going to keep this out. I'm going to bring it out from behind the chair and start working on it. You know, it's not one of those things that like I have to have it done this year. I don't have that rule on this particular project. I got my issue. Yeah. You know, I have that Readly app where I can read a lot of these magazines. But I have to say, there are some magazines, there's something about the texture and the smell and the ooh-ah-ah that happens that doesn't happen on your phone. But yeah, this issue was filled with lots of love. Lots of love in this issue. And so this is the only magazine subscription that I have, Primitive Quilts and Projects. I just really love that. My friend Sandy, who lives up in BC, Canada, every so often she'll send me something, and I try to filter what I absolutely love and what I can live without, which isn't much. But when she sent me the link for this free pattern, I could not print it fast enough. Oh, it's raining. Is that not adorable? It's by 1894 Cottonwood House, and it's called Lemons to Lemonade. I love the spring brightness, the summer feel, everything about it. And I know that that is going to be, that's kind of moving up to an upper level of must do. I did finish my bullions, my cast-on bullions right there. And now I have to figure out what else I want in that particular circle. That's the decision making. That's why that class, the Sue Spargo, the small circle tutorials that she's doing on Instagram, it's just filled with ideas, you know, and it's well worth following that. And my friend Ariane, on the other hand, is her YouTube. She is in collaboration with Sue, taking Sue's stitch that she's doing and converting it to left-handed. But she has wonderful ideas. But I have to say, I'm pretty proud of those little cast-on bullions. And so now I have to, silk and pearl. It's really hard not to love silk and pearl. Yeah. Really hard not to like that. So I'm going to be working away on this. I think this is like a ongoing kind of project because it's a project that, how do I describe it? It's a project that needs inspiration, like you get inspired and then suddenly you're compelled to do it. You know, you're compelled to do that stitch. But it's not a project for me that I can sit down and say, okay, I'm going to do this whole circle right now. No, I have to be inspired. Call that lazy, I don't know. And as you can see, I've got my box out. I've got my fabric out. This is what it's supposed to look like. Oh yeah. I am today going to be working on row 6. So maybe by the next video, I will have another row up there. And I'm just going to keep working on it every so often. I have a couple of other projects. I might pull it down after row 6 and put another project up and then go back to row 7. Yeah. It'd be nice to have it done before Christmas so that I can hang it up. I just love it. So what are you doing? What are you working on? Are you okay? I hope you're okay. Yeah, G and I were just realizing we're moving into week 6 of our shelter in place, and we're doing pretty darn good. we're doing pretty darn good. Our house has never been more organized and more clean, that's for sure. And our garage, holy moly, our garage looks pretty darn good considering. But I look forward to the day that I can go up and see my grandchildren. But I was talking to a friend the other day, and he said, he was, up until all this happened, he was taking his granddaughter, who's a toddler, swimming every week. And he has only seen her by Facebook, or not Facebook, by FaceTime, because he said he's not sure how traumatic it would be to go do a drive-by or stand on the sidewalk and talk, and her not understanding why he wouldn't, or his wife wouldn't want to hold her. And that's a real consideration. I mean, it's different. Yeah. Well, you know all what I'm talking about. It's different. But we have to make choices, and I'm willing to wear my mask, wear my gloves, do my thing to protect my family and my community, because it's going to take us doing that, and I'm okay with that. I mean, there's some days, just like all of you, there's some days you wake up like this morning. Holy moly. Most our sleep has been totally erratic in terms of we kind of go to bed at the same time every night, like 9, 10 o'clock. I know that might seem early by some of you, but we have always gone to bed at the same time. So whatever time that is, we go to bed. Now we might read or look at, I play a little game on my phone in bed until I fall asleep. But I'm always been an early riser, because the last 10 plus years of my career, I worked early shift, and first surgery is the patient is in the hospital getting prepped at 7 a.m. So you have to be there, early. And so I was a 4 o'clock in the morning riser. G and I would go to the gym. Yes, we went to the gym, and then from the gym I'd go to work, and I'd be there by 5:30. So since retiring, we could stay in bed later, but I'm still an early riser. I mean, it's rare that I make it to 6 o'clock. Your old brain, your old nurse brain, for all you nurses out there, it's on a different time clock. And so I usually am up at 6, and G usually is up by 7, because it's our internal clock, and I would come up here and sew or piddle and stitch, and so we've kind of, with this sheltering in place, our clock is off because our minds are busy. Our minds are constantly thinking, and so one day I got up at 2:30 in the morning, and he was sitting in the living room. I said, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "Oh, that brain was just going, but I'm coming back to bed." So he came back to bed and fell back asleep. But this morning, gosh, we didn't wake up till 7:30. I was like, what the heck? We haven't done that in a long time. But I think as your brain processes different things that are going on, not only in your life but in the world, your body is saying, we need to get up and do something to distract ourselves, or we don't want to get up, we want to ignore it, and we want to bury our head in the sand. Yeah. So I can't keep track of what's going on with us because every day is a new day. Is it that way for you? And then we got a flyer about from the cable company that said you could get internet and television for a certain price. And G had left it out on the counter, and so I looked at it and I said, oh, we haven't had cable. Did we want cable? Huh. Let me see how much we're paying. And it was only like $5 more to add the cable to what already our internet bill was. So I called up and I asked them about that. And, you know, they're kind of surprised. I mean, the gal was really funny. She said, and she was young, you know, but she said, how do you keep up on the news if you don't have cable? I said, believe me. I said, we look on the internet. And she goes, well, you can't believe everything that you read on the internet. I said, we actually watch the news on the news websites, you know, like our local TV station news or CNN or PBS, you know, so it's not like we're reading Facebook for the news. But it was just kind of a funny conversation. And then she asked, well, okay, so you want to hook up cable? And she goes, so how many televisions are we talking about? And I said, one. And she's like, one. Processing. Like, does anybody have one television? It was just kind of a funny conversation. So we hooked up the cable. And our rationale was, I can't see us going into a movie theater for a long time. And we live kind of, I mean, sometimes the streaming out here in Sisters can be challenging to watch something. And so I said, if we had cable, we wouldn't have to go to the mail. Not that we do now. We just do streaming of Netflix and Amazon Prime. But I said we could watch movies. There's pay-per-view movies, and then there's things that we watch on the internet that we could actually watch on the television easier with better streaming. So we went ahead and hooked it up. And you know what we did first thing? We watched Doolittle. Oh my gosh. You need to watch Doolittle. It was sometimes a laugh out loud kind of movie, but it was so sweet and so amazingly made that I could actually watch that again. You know, it was so good. Even G liked it, you know, and sometimes G and I aren't totally in sync on the same movie. So, but watch Doolittle. It's good. I just love the way my little bouncy hair goes. Well, I have one more thing to show you. Are you ready? You're not going to believe it. Look at this. Is that not adorable? If I do say so myself. I just love how this turned out. And I'm going to tell you the things that I did to make it look like this. So, I bought the kit from Old World Quilt Shop. And so all this, I didn't have to change out one piece of wool, which is rare. Usually I end up changing one or two pieces of wool because there's something I don't like about it. But not one piece of wool did I have to change out on this. So par for the course, you can go back and look how I prep my wool. I have SF 101 on the back piece of this wool, And the reason being is that it maintains its integrity. And a plaid wool like this background, the edging can get kind of stretchy when you're manipulating it to stitch. So on the back of this is SF 101. Then I use soft fuse to fuse my pieces down. And this particular designer does not overlap her pieces. They butt up to each other, which I really enjoyed in this particular piece. And then I did a combination of buttonhole and whip stitch. And I challenge you to tell me where one is and where one isn't. Everybody, I know there's a lot of talk, you have to do buttonhole around every piece in a primitive. Not true, not true. These little pieces or something that's not going to really show up the work of a buttonhole, I just whip it down. So this was a 2 evening stitch in front of the television. Oh, someone must be, there must be someone walking outside. I hear a phone ringing. But what I did do different from the designer's pattern is I didn't particularly like the way the white thread was embroidered on this. I liked it being not standing out so much. And this is your project, so you get to do it. If you like the white, do the white stitching. But she had white stitching in here. I did not like that, so I used a lighter stitching in there. And you're not going to be able to really see it that well, but I like the way it looked better. I also did some Spargo bullion stitches over the top. I did for the legs. She did like a stem stitch, and I did a chain stitch, and then I bullion stitched over the top of the chain sporadically to give it just a bulkier look for the legs. And then she just had a white line of thread here showing where the quail is standing, and I chose to do some like swirly dirt with a running stitch, a stem stitch is what I did on these. And I did not draw anything down. I only did it freehand and from my head to the needle. And that's the way I did these branches. Now she did a satin stitch for her twigs, and I did a chain stitch, and I used 2 different colors of thread, and surprisingly you can't even tell it through the camera, but one of the threads I used was a Valdani tweed, and it was a beige and purple, if you could believe it. But you can't, it just adds a little bit of different texture to it. I did not draw the twigs onto this. I just free motioned it. I looked at the picture and I went for it. I wanted it to be a relaxing piece. The only thing that I think I might do is I might put a button right here. I'm thinking I might put a button right here. So how did I finish this? Okay, once everything was stitched, I squared it up to 12 inches. And in the kit, they give you a very nice flannel. And I'm thinking this might be a Bonnie Sullivan flannel. And I did the flap method, which is in the pattern instructions. I didn't do her measurements, I just did the method of flap because I'm not going to do a zipper, and I'm just not going to work that hard at it. And so the flap method is just that your one piece is flapped underneath, so you turn it inside out and it just holds it down. You can't see inside there, but it's easy to change it out if you want. Robin, my friend Robin, told me always do the flap, the upper flap down. So, or how am I going to say it? The upper piece should always be the one that's laying on top of the lower piece so that this opening is facing down. Does that make sense? And it's because then, if it was like this, all kinds of dirt and dust from the back of the couch might fall in there, but this way it won't. And she gave instructions on how to bind it. I am not a binding person for pillows. I like piping. So I used this piping and 3/16 cord, cable cord, and I had enough, they give you enough of this in the kit, they give you enough of this to do the binding in the back. That's included in the kit. And so I made cording. Yeah, I made cording. Yeah. Then what I did was I laid right sides together, put my cording in between the two pieces, pinned it, and then sewed it. And when it was all sewn, I turned it inside out, and it was beautiful. And I made my own cording. But that is not the end of this. So I have a pillow made, but no pillow form. And I looked through, because sometimes I have pillow forms that I bought ahead because I like to make pillows, but nothing was this small. And so I thought I have to make my own pillow form. And see that? Can you see that? What I do, when I need a certain size pillow form, I take a piece of old batting and I cut the size I want. I sew the edge like with a 1/2 inch seam around it. I'm not turning it out. No one turn it inside out. No one's going to see where I sewed, so I just leave it like that. And I sew, I fold it in half. I've cut my piece out. I sew two sides closed, and then I have one side open. Then I always have a bag of this around. I stuff this. Yes, I stuff it with polyfill, and then I sew it closed. And I've made a pillow form in like not even 10 minutes. And that's what's in this inside of my pillow. Yeah, I'm telling you, where there's a will, there's a way. So now this is going to go downstairs on my couch because it's going to fit perfectly there. And I'm so happy. I'm so happy that it's done. And it turned out really, really cute. So today I'm going to be working on row 6. And I'm thinking that I really need to stitch. I'll show you. I want to work on more Spargo stitching, but I want to get this needle. This was a project that I worked on in the Spargo class at Tanca Verde like 2 years ago, and it's the top to my a needle bag that I'm making to hold these. You know, I want to hold these thread things. And the story that I was telling was our travels to the Southwest in our trailer at that time. We had the trailer. And so this is that piece. And I love our little trailer. And there were oranges laying all over the ground. And so I put oranges in there. I still have to applique my little barrel cactus. And then I was putting a jackrabbit there in the middle of the piece because we saw lots of jackrabbits. But I pulled it off, and I'm going to replace it with Enzo because he was with us on that trip. So I think I'm going to be working on this piece right now and keep stitching away. This one's getting close. I can feel like it's close. And I mean, you could go on. The thing about Spargoing, that's a verb. Spargoing a project is if you don't stop yourself, it could go on forever. So I think I'm getting close. I need to hand applique this barrel cactus down and do some stitching. I want to put a flower up here at the top. I got to put Enzo on there. I want to put some raindrops coming from this rain cloud. And then I think I'm done. I'm going to call it done. And then I have to figure out how you make it into that bag. I got to find that pattern. I don't even know where that pattern is. Yeah. So that's it. So I'm going to leave you with this. I thought it would be fun, and I've seen this done, and I would like to get to know you better, and if you want to get to know me better, in the comments below, ask me a question. The only thing that I want to leave out of the questions are anything to do with politics or religion, and that only being that seems to be a trigger conversation on social media, and a lot of that is very personal. But any other question you want to ask that is appropriate, you can ask me. But here's the thing. When you ask the questions in the comment, you have to answer that same question you're asking me so I can get to know you. Yeah, this is a two-way street, girlfriends and gentlemen. So, ask away, answer your question, and on the next video, I will go through those questions. And we'll see you then. Stay safe and keep stitching.
Thanks for watching.
And be sure to like and subscribe on Quilt Roadies.